Alright, what's up YouTube? This is going to be a quick guide on the Wanderer, how to build and how to play him. So the Wanderer is a main DPS slash hyper carry unit. With his teams, you want to focus on maximizing his personal damage as much as possible. The reason why he excels so well in this role is because of the sheer amount of buffs you can give him, while having excellent uptime on all of those buffs. Wanderer's pros are, he deals very high damage, he has excellent range, he has really good AoE. Some cons are, he is highly prone to interruption, legally expensive to make truly come alive, aka needing C6 Faruzan. For the Wanderer's talents, your first priority should be to crown his burst. This is where the vast majority of his damage comes from, and it is a very significant increase to go from level 9 to level 10, so you want to make sure you crown it. Then you want to get his skill and his burst to level 6, and from there, if he's C0 or C1, it doesn't matter much which you level up next, but if he's C2, you're going to want to get his burst up before his skill. Otherwise, you can level them in whatever order you want. So the Wanderer's constellations are pretty simple. The C1 gives him an extra 10% attack speed on his normal and charged attacks during his elemental skills duration. It also increases the damage of his AFR passive, makes it less of a DPS loss to use whenever you need to dodge. The C2 basically gives him 200% damage bonus on his burst, which effectively doubles the damage of his burst, so that's really good. C3 gets his burst 3 more talent levels, which is really good since it's following right after the C2, which gives his burst more damage. The C4 basically gives him a random A1 effect that he doesn't already have. If you get the Cryo A1 effect, then this is a really big DPS increase. It can also be a big DPS increase if you get the Hydro or Pyro one, but it's hard to calculate because it's RNG, but as long as you get a useful one that you don't have, it's going to be a pretty good DPS increase. The C5 is his only constellation that isn't any good. It just increases E by 3 talent levels, which doesn't actually do that much. The C6 is pretty insane. It basically gives him 40% more damage on all of his normal attacks and increases his E's duration. For the Wanderer's combos, there are 3 combos you'll generally want to stick with. The easiest one to use is the spamming his in-3 combo. This will be ideal if using his signature weapon or if paired with Yunjin. Charged attack spam is generally his hardest combo to pull off, but if you aren't using his signature weapon or any characters that require normal attacks, then this will be his ideal combo. His charge attacks also have pretty good AoE compared to his normal attacks, and also really good stagger for stun locking enemies. If you can pull off 13 to 14 charged attacks at C0, or 14 to 15 at C1, then I would advise doing it, but if you can't, then I would suggest using a different combo. Into C, this is the perfect combo if you're unable to execute charged attacks properly, or if you aren't using his signature weapon or Yunjin, then you'll want to do into C instead of M3 or CA spam. Wanderer's team structure, if you have a Constellation 6 Faruzan, you'll want to use Wanderer, Faruzan, Bennett, and the flexible 4th slot. You'll really want to use Faruzan because at Constellation 6, she provides by far the most amount of buffs possible from a single character. She also provides off-field and emo particle generation, and she can deal decent damage and provide crowd control. She can also buff further with the tenacity of the Millerless set. You want to use Bennett for his attack buff, and also his self-pyro application with his burst. The reason why this is important is because it's the main way that you can be able to get 2 of the Wanderer's A1 buffs at the same time. How this works is, you'll have Pyro Aura on yourself from Bennett's Burst, and the enemy will have a different aura, like, let's say Cryo, from another character, putting it on the enemy. Then when you use the Wanderer's skill while you have both of these auras, you'll get both effects, so say both Pyro and Cryo. You get both 30% attack and 20% crit rate at the same time. Bennett isn't required to be used, but if you want to build the most optimal Wanderer team possible, you'll really want to use him. The 4th slot, you'll want to use either a 3rd buffer, a sub DPS unit, or a shielder. If you're using a 3rd buffer, I recommend using either Yunjin, Jean, or Rosaria. Yunjin is going to be the biggest buff possible you can use for your 3rd buffer due to the massive buff she provides your normal attacks. And if you're using her, you'll want to make sure you're doing the N3 combo on Wanderers. You only want to do normal attacks when you're using Yunjin. The exception to this is if you're an AoE and you're going to run out of all of her stacks too fast. If you're just spamming normal attacks, then you can do N2C with her in AoE instead. Another thing that makes Yunjin good is she procs Crystallize. Those crystallized shields are going to help prevent Wanderer from getting interrupted, so she can kind of act as a shielder herself. Using the Constellation for Jean, she provides really good buffing through her 40% Anima resistance shred at C4, as well as her attack speed buff at C2. She can also hold the Freedom Sworn for additional buffing as well, and she'll also do good damage, so she'll be buffed by Faruzan and Bennett. The thing you want to watch out for with Jean is she can push enemies outside of her burst, and if that happens, if enemies leave her burst circle, then you lose the resistance shred, and she's kind of not doing much at that point. Rosaria is good because she provides a crit rate buff, usually around 12 to 15%, and she also applies a lot of Cryo, so you're easily going to get Wanderer's Cryo A1 for an extra 20% crit rate. So altogether from using her, your Wanderer will get about an extra 32 to 35% crit rate. You just want to be careful with doing this, because Wanderer already ascends with crit rate, so just from having Rosaria on the team, you're already going to have about 60% crit rate before any artifacts or weapons. If you're using a sub DPS for the 4th slot, I recommend using one that provides additional utility and not just damage. Some examples are Kazuha, Venti, Yelan, Xingqiu, and Saisho. Kazuha and Venti are really good for AoE, because they provide crowd control, and they'll do really high AoE and Nemo damage due to being buffed by both Faruzan and Bennett. So just want to make sure you build them on an attack damage crit build instead of the usual triple EM builds here. Zhou and Yelan are really good because they'll enable your Hydro A1 for an extra 2 seconds of build time, which can be a really good damage increase. Xingqiu will provide some interruption resistance and damage reduction, so he can kind of be used in place of a shielder, although his interruption resistance isn't enough to prevent you from getting interrupted by every attack, so you'll still get interrupted by some stuff, so you'll still need to be careful to dodge even when using him. Yelan will provide more damage than Xingqiu, as well as more buffing, so she's really good, but you won't have the defensive utility that Xingqiu provides. Aishil is good because she does good single target damage while only taking a single second of build time. She'll also give you Wanderer's Electro A1 effect, which will allow him to generate more energy for himself and use his burst every rotation without building any energy recharge. This is less important at C0, but if you have a C2 Wanderer, it's very important to use his burst every rotation, so Aishil can be a good asset there. If using the shielder, you'll want to use either Thoma, Lila, Diona, or Xingyan. Thoma is good because it provides Pyro Resonance with Bennett, and extra Pyro Particles to lower Bennett's energy requirement. At C6, he'll also provide 15 normal and charge attack bonus for Wanderer. You can also build Thoma to do some damage on a damage build. The reason you can build him like this is because even if his shield breaks, his Q will just generate a new one. So you'll be constantly generating shields and be able to keep Wanderer protected from interruption even if you don't build for his shield. Xingyan is also good for providing Pyro Resonance. She can also help with the Tenacity set and allow your Faruzan to run something else. She also applies a lot of pyro in a short amount of time, which makes her good for breaking shields if you need that. Layla and Nyana are good because they have strong shields and they'll give you Wanderer's Cryo A1. They both also provide some buffing, with Layla able to help the Nasty set, and also her C4 providing some buffing as well. Nyana's C6 will give you 200 Elemental Mastery, which can be useful for giving Wanderer a little extra scroll damage. If you don't have Farazan at Constellation 6, she can still walk just fine as long as she's at least C2. However, there are other options you can use that might be better if your Farazan isn't C6 yet. Here are some examples of teams you can use that don't use Farazan. You can go with a Taser team of Wanderer, Bennett, Faisho, Yelano Zinksho. This will play like a typical Taser team, except you're using Bennett instead of Dido to buff Wanderer further. Wanderer actually gets a lot of swirls in the Taser team because he attacks very fast and has a lot of immunity application. Plus his charged attacks don't have any ICD, so that can get a lot of swirls as well. You could play a double cryo team of Wanderer, Bennett, Rosaria, Layla. This team is good because you get a lot of crit rate between Rosaria, Cryo A1, and Cryo Resonance, and you'll have a shielder from Layla. Just make sure you don't overcap on crit rate, because that's going to be a lot of crit rate you get in a team setup like this. You can also use a double Hydro team of Wanderer, Bennett, Yelan, and Zinksho. Classic double Hydro. And what makes it good here is Yelan and Zinksho, neither of them take up Bennett's buff uptime since they don't snap Shadow skill with each skill with attack. So you're going to be able to use the extra 2 seconds of field time from Wanderer's Hydro A1 and not lose any Bennett buff uptime. You'll get Bennett's buff on the full extended field time. You could also do a double Geo team of Wanderer, Bennett, Yunjin, Zhongli. I said you shouldn't use Zhongli before, however if you're not using Farazan, he becomes a lot more valuable, since he'll be the only form of resistance shred you have. You'll also get Geo Resonance here for some more damage bonus. And he'll also provide Geo Particles that you can run less energy recharge on Yunjin and run more defense. Lastly, you could also do a freeze team. You could do something like Wanderer, Bennett, Mona, Zinksho, or Yelan, and Rosaria as the 4th. Mona can work here because you can use freeze to extend her omen duration. Otherwise, Yelan and Zinksho they're always going to be good Hydros. So these are the weapons you want to choose from on Wanderer. If you have Titalize Remembrance, his signature weapon, you'll always want to use that. Lost Prayers is usually going to be his second best weapon, just make sure you don't overcap on crit rate. Rid Zip is usually his third best weapon if you have it at R5. It can be better or worse depending on your RNG with its passive. Kagar's Variety, Skyward Atlas, and Memory of Dust are all good stat sticks. Memory of Dust will perform worse if you don't have a shielder, and better if you do have one. Solo Paul works well, but its passive won't have full uptime, because Wanderer only does elemental skill damage once on cast, so it's only going to last 6 seconds. Black Cliff Gate and Dodoko Tails are both okay free-to-play weapons. I wouldn't really recommend spending your Quitter on Black Cliff unless you have nothing else to use though. Then Eye of Perception and Frostbearer are usually going to be the worst options. Eye of Perception is a standard banner weapon, so if you have it, you're just as likely to have the Wood Zip, so I wouldn't really ever recommend using it, and I would only use Frostbearer if you're early game and don't have anything else yet, or if you just somehow don't have anything else at all. So these are the artifacts you'll want to choose from. I put up Calculations both with the Wood Zip and Titalize Remembrance as the weapon, because some sets become better or worse depending on what weapon you're using. The Pavilion Chronicles is generally going to be his best in slot set that you'll want to use. Shimnawa's Remembrance can come slightly ahead or slightly behind. However, this is only if you're using Wanderer's Burst every other rotation anyway, with the Pavilion Chronicles. If you're bursting every rotation without Shimnawa's, then Desert Pavilion Chronicles becomes much better. So, if, for example, you're using Wanderer with Faisho for Electro A1, or you have Wanderer at C2, you're already bursting every rotation. You won't want to use Shimanaras. Also, if you're using Wanderer's Hydro A1, Shimanari's effect won't last your full 12 seconds of fill time, so you won't want to use it there either. But aside from there, it's a good alternative to Desert Pavilion. The Wanderer's Troop can be a good set if you're doing charged attack spam and you're not using Tudeli's Remembrance. If you're using Tudeli's Remembrance, you're never going to want to do charged attack spam. Retracing Bowlight is an okay set if you're using a Shielder. Just know that if your shield breaks, you'll lose the effect and it'll become useless, but it does also provide extra shield strength to help with that. Viridescent Vironaire is good as an alternative if you're wanting a sub DPS, because it'll make your sub DPS do more damage. The Echoes of an Offering can be okay if you're using Tudeli's Remembrance, but if you're not using Tudeli's Remembrance, I wouldn't really recommend using it. Overall, Wanderer is a really strong unit, brings a ton of damage to the table while being very versatile, having a ton of quality of life, and he's incredibly fun to play, and he also enhances your overall experience a lot. I hope this guide helped you figure out how to build your Wanderer and how to play him. If you want to see gameplay of the Wanderer in action, I recommend you check out some of my other videos. I have several videos showcasing him in the spiral with this. If you want to see the spreadsheets for any of the math I did for this video, feel free to message me on Discord and I'll send you the link. If this video helped you at all, please subscribe, as that'll help me a lot. And thanks for watching.